Hello, everyone, and welcome to Writers Drinking Coffee. This is a podcast where writers sit around drinking tasty beverages to talk about writing, publishing, and the whole creative process. There will be rants and raves and opinions that may not agree but are lovingly delivered. We do not censor ourselves, so consider us PG-13. Today, your spirit-enabled guides are Chaz and Karen Brinchley, and me, Jeannie Warner. This is episode 200. Katharine Kerr does Sci Fi. I know, hello! We made it to 200.
Yay.
You've been putting up with us a long time, listeners. But welcome back, Kit.
Oh, hello. I'm here.
Hi, Kit.
It has been 136 episodes since we lured you on to chat about your last Devery book.
Right. Which indeed was the last Devery book.
Well, first of all, let's pause a moment and take off our hats, everybody, wherever you are. The last Devery book, which was really, really good. And thank you for writing them.
Thank you for appreciating them. But, sometimes things just end and you have to accept that. So.
Well, I like that an ending means a new beginning in science fiction, which is, lo and behold, my other favorite thing.
Aha. Excellent. I happen to have written some.
Prince Polar City Blues, I recall, I own of yours.
That's mine.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. Palace, Snare. Oh, and Freeze Frames. I nearly forgot Freeze Frames. That's science fiction.
Oh,
too.
yeah. I read those. I've read all of those.
Oh, okay.
They're sitting in our clubhouse with all the other books.
Okay, does anyone remember if I've forgotten any of the science fiction I've written down?
Well, I think you did a collaboration with Katie Daniel, Polar City Nightmares.
Right. Nightmare, just one singular.
Oh.
Yeah, Katie wrote most of that. Unfortunately, as she was approaching the end, her husband had a major heart attack.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So I finished it, I revised it, I got it through production so that I did do something on it, but it really is Katie's book. But of course, they insisted on my name being big because it's so, at that time it's old.
Because yours was a name.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Nobody ever really asks if all of the fantasy books are at the same place, except for we discover later that Shannon's are. But are these all the same world? I mean, you have Polar City Blues. Is that the same one as your newest book, Haze?
It is, but Polar City Blues takes place about 1,800 years before Haze in Zion.
Well, why did you decide on 1800?
Because I'm assuming that it's about 2,000 years from now, and Polar City Blues was about 200 years from now. So therefore, simple subtraction gives us 1,800.
Math.
But Snare and Palace take place at about the same time as Haze.
Okay, so those are both 1,800 years after Polar City Blues.
Yes, exactly.
You had the world already built.
Well, I didn't know how big it was. I'd never do anything like make notes, Chaz, on world building. When I'm writing, it all occurs to me, and that's why I do so much revision, because there's 3 or 4 different versions of her. No, Cat. No. Lulu, down. Sorry. Another reason I revise so much is the cat who jumps in my lap when I'm trying to type.
Well, it means we decided we liked the term organic gardener better than pantser.
Yes, and I prefer Night Driver.
Ooh.
Joe Haldeman, a very fine sci-fi writer.
Tell me about Night Driver.
Well, this is from Joe Haldeman. He said that when you're driving at night, as long on a road, you know it's going to go to your destination, but you don't know what's along the way. But all you really need to know is what's in your headlights.
Right.
That's basically how I write. I know, well, okay, at the end of this, there's going to be X will happen, but I have no idea how it was in the middle. So I just start writing, and sure enough, my subconscious mind very kindly pops up all this stuff. And then when I finally get to the destination, I have to revise everything thoroughly to make sure it's consistent.
Mm-hmm. That's more or less exactly how I work.
Aha. Excellent.
So you're both Night Driver. I like it. So
I don't like Pantser. Pantser ugly.
The world building, do you have to write notes for yourself then? Or do you just go back and say, okay, that's no longer Bob, that was Julianne?
All right, you can't see the video. There's no video. I was going to show you the thick notebook in which I take all sorts of notes as I write.
Oh.
And as I revise, But
Clever. So the world building in space, I mean, there is a difference and yet a similarity between writing a magic system versus a technology system. Is your notebook your process? How do you go about that?
Okay, well, the magic system is actually something that has been around for several thousand years. In Devery, that is, the Devery magic system. So I did not so much invent it at all, really, as see what its possibilities might be in this fantasy world. And a technical note on magic. There's 2 kinds of magical systems in the world, or I really should say esoteric systems, because some of them have heavy religious overtones. In one, you know what the astral plane and the etheric plane are, I hope, the higher planes above the physical plane. Okay. In one kind of systems, the physical plane and the astral, etc., are continuous. You can go from one to the other fairly easy. In the other kind of magic system, they're discontinuous, and which means that for a magician or a student or whatever to get to one of the other planes, they have to go through a lot of training and a lot of hard work. The magic system in Devery, of course, is that second kind. You can't just, pray and have God come down and touch you, because Christianity and other magical type religions, I guess they're all magical, really. Anyway, in the planes are porous. If Jesus prays, Lord, do something, Lord does it. If he needs energy to heal somebody, he just reaches up and gets it. He doesn't have to go meditate. He doesn't have to, go into trance, nothing like that.
Well, in terms of 5e, I mean, we say that he just has different connections that allow him to do the planar travel and reach on beyond the material plane.
Well, it's different. I'm sorry, it really is different.
Okay.
Because in one case, you can do, if you're a prophet like Joshua Ben Yusuf, which is Jesus' real name, you may be able to do that. But basically, the whole point of ritual magic is to make it possible for the student to go back and forth in the planes. But it is different, because the difference is in the way that Jesus would do it. You don't have to lose consciousness of the physical plane. You're still on the physical plane. You know what you're doing on the physical plane. You can see it. With the other kind, you have to lose consciousness of the physical plane. You have to leave the physical plane and travel up, or wherever it is, so that there's, you have that's why, and you'll notice in Devery, a lot of times Nevin has somebody guarding his body when he's working on the planes, because he has no idea what could happen. Someone could come in and stab him.
So you have, without giving it too much away, and because you let me read the first bit of Hayes, you have translocational, air quotes, magic / technology. How do you plan the difference?
Plan? What is this word, plan? No. Okay. What I'm assuming here is, and this will make a lot of hard science fiction fans scream, but what I'm assuming is that the hyperspace, which is, so many, let's start at the beginning. A great many science fiction writers have postulated the only way to have faster than light travel in a reasonable amount of time is for there to be cracks in our space-time, the physical plane, which allow a ship to go into hyperspace and come out again, millions of light years or whatever later at another location, but the whole trip would take maybe a couple of hours. And that is the basic for the faster than light travel in Hayes and Zion. Okay.
Well, it makes sense. I was just contemplating, because it is the higher dimensions and parallel universes which fit perfectly well with some of the magic theories. It's just
I was going to say that.
Sorry. Please say.
Yeah, I postulate that hyperspace basically is the same thing as magicians call the astral plane or the etheric plane. It is what surrounds the physical plane, but cannot be seen by normal means. And so in the book, when somebody is about to make transit through what they call the shunts, which are like cracks in space-time, what they're really doing is they have to find the right little crack in space-time, and they're not everywhere. You have to know where they are. And then get the ship into that and then get it out again. And getting it out again is the trip, is the hard part. Okay. And that is very different than magic, of course, because it's always very easy to get out of the astral plane. I mean, somebody pokes you and you wake up, because it's not normal for us to be in the astral plane or anything beyond the physical plane. But with the high technology of these ships, the ships are jointly piloted by artificial intelligence units, real AIs, not this crap going on now. So, okay, the AIs are able to meld to a certain extent with what we would call hyperspace. They know their way around. And so between them and a human pilot, the ships can get out again because they can, but it's still very, very difficult because, of course, the AI is a very different kind of intelligence than the human.
Well, it's also completely unreasonable. If it'd be easy, everybody would do it.
Exactly.
So what contribution does the human pilot make to this process?
They're the ones that can actually finally see if it's the right exit point, because you don't know where you're going when you're up there. Basically, okay. I'm giving away secrets, by the way, in the end of the book. Most people have to wait to the end of the book to see if I can decide. Okay, so the ship jumps. It's easy enough to tell where the entrance is. Both the AI pilot and the human pilot, you can see it on the structure called the map. I'm not quite sure what the map is yet. I'm exploring that in Zion, so I don't have an answer for it right now. Okay, so they see the entry point. They aim for it perfectly right. The AI is carefully, refining the mathematics. The human guy can see it. and they jump into hyperspace. Once they get there, everything is this brilliant golden light, except there are blue streaks in it. And the streak is the shunt. The trouble is finding the right shunt. And the AI, for some reason, cannot do that. It gets too confused by all the possibilities. And so it's up to the human pilot, who by this time is not really, I mean, he's totally melded with his ship. He feels like the ship.
Yep.
It's up to the human pilot to find the shunt that feels right to him and continue on. And when they get close enough, then the AI can say, exit point is approaching or not. But they only have a few minutes. If they're on the wrong one, they're in trouble. So,
There's a parallel to that to a lot of I tragically have to work a lot with generative pretext and other artificial intelligent byproducts in work. And we say, honestly, you can't just let the computer go and presume what it comes up with is going to work, because you have things like generative pretext. Those are all words. They can't do math, much like machine learning just looks at the relationship between math, but it can't do words. So it makes perfect sense that you would need a human pilot to say, right, you've done all the math and you've mathed us into this place. That one is the one that's correct. I like it.
Oh, great. Oh, boy, I could. If somebody complains, I can tell them that now.
Oh, send them right my way.
My computer expert friend. Well,
Well, they say, for AI images out there, count the fingers and toes and look for the shadows the way you would for the Fae. And yet at the same time, look at your hands, everybody. A computer doesn't understand what a hand is or the function of it or the standard of handness. It's seen hands in all different pictures, but it doesn't mean anything to a computer who doesn't know what a hand is.
Exactly.
So that's why it just draws random extra fingers somewhere. It's like, well, why not? That'd be a great place for a finger.
Which is why generative AI is not true AI.
Yeah.
It is research, descent.
Exactly.
Yeah, was that language something modules or something?
Large language models.
Large
Thank you.
language models. A million points of not necessarily correct light.
Yes.
Yes. I like
But
that.
because there's a difference, after all, between the denotation of a word and its connotation.
Mhm.
Denotation, I can see these language models understanding, putting together, they know what some sort of core meaning that makes it fit with other core meanings. But connotation, I don't see how they could possibly understand that. That is body oriented to a large extent. How a word makes us feel.
They call that level 3 and level 4, and they're just not really there yet. Like Google Maps could have I can tell by your voice you're pissed off at me, but I can't figure out why.
Yeah.
So really, it sounds like in a lot of ways you're kind of taking a lot of the ideas, moving them into science fiction, but would you say that it's like just the same human problems in a different venue? Or what are your thoughts?
Well, there certainly are plenty of human problems in this book. What I postulate here, to get away from hyperspace for a minute, is a society where what is normal for human beings is considered to be polyamorous and bisexual.
Hooray!
That's just the way humans are. There are other intelligent species, and they have their own rules, of course, about this, but they don't really come into the book much. And so there's room, boy, human problems, you say, there are plenty. When you have a situation like that, you definitely have an author's paradise for relationship problems. Because the whole culture says, oh, well, sexual jealousy, that's for children. It's unnatural. You shouldn't feel that way. But do you think people really stop feeling that way? Of course they don't. And other things like that. But the basic marriage in this society is a quartet. 2 men and 2 women is considered ideal, but you could be any other, it could be 3 men, 1 woman, or vice versa, if someone really wants, because
Pretty reasonable. I have 2 gal pals, and they're 2 lesbians, and they're friends with 2 gay men together, and the 4 of them together produced a child who's fabulous.
yeah.
Thinking of you, Ellen.
The reason that these quartets are set up is because of children, of course, because the idea is that a woman can have a child and be with it for a little while. But what if, for instance, she's in the military and they call her away? Well, then she's got 3 other people there who can take care of the child while she's gone. Or if something bad happens to her, the child has a family.
I like the idea. This is fewer children left alone in the universe.
You've got it. Orphans are very rare because of this. And then, of course, 2 of the people who are in these marriage quartets, since it's accepted, well, they all have in-laws. And so there's grandparents all over the lot.
I knew there was a catch.
Yeah. Well, grandparents saved my life. I'm not going to complain about them. But what else was I going to say? But anyway, it's the whole function. Excuse me. I don't think how to say this. In Hayes and also in Zion, the main venue that all this is taking place in is in a military organization anyway. And so the idea of protecting the children would just quartet is very important. And the venue is the fleet. That's all it's known as, is the fleet. Theoretically, the society in this world is a republic of many different planets. It's an outgrowth of the republic that is in Polar City Blues after many years later, and much larger, of course. But the fleet is really you don't really argue with them much. Civilian legislators try, which is going to be part of the plot. So I'm not going to give it away. But the fleet basically dominates the society. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, we have genetic alterations. I mean, most of the officers, at least in the fleet, are genetically altered humans, or they're the descendants of genetically altered humans. They're all born in the natural way and raised in the natural way. But their ancestors were a group of highly altered and very ruthless soldiers, who in fact are shown in Snare.
Oh.
So that's where there's a connection there. The so-called tribes in Snare are indeed the direct descendants of the inborn, they're called, because they have traits that are inborn in them, through genetic manipulation. And by the time, and in the part of the universe where Haze takes place, they're known as throwbacks because everyone remembers where they came from. They're just the distant descendant, 400 years later, descendants of those inborn people. And very few people really trust them unless they're inborn themselves or, are very educated because, they don't know what this means. And so there's a whole movement about, the fleet is going to enslave us. We can't trust these inborn people or the throwbacks. They're all animals, really. They have animal genes, which of course they don't, but that's beside the point. That's another important part of the society and the plot.
Yeah, okay, so this is a republic of many planets.
Yes.
And you said there are races other than human.
Right.
Are any of those planets, is it just a human republic or?
No, there are two main organizations, civilizations or political systems really in this world. The Republic has 4 or 5 different species in it. And then there is the Hopper Empire. The Hoppers appear in Polar City Blues. These people are complete vegetarians, and they like to conquer other people's planets because they need fields to grow crops in, basically. People talk about, it's much more efficient carbon-wise to be vegetarians, and the hell it is. If you've got a large population, which they do, in the billions, how much lettuce can you grow on one planet? It's not really lettuce, you know what I mean? How many leafy green things can you grow?
I don't know. I'm imagining if everybody had bunnies,
But they're the hostile presence. And that's why the fleet still exists and why the inborn officers are so important, is because at any time, there's already been, maybe about 20 years before this, there's been a war with the Hoppers, and there's likely to be one again.
Those dark Hoppers.
You open with it pleasantly, as I like calling it. There's a great action sequence with...
Oh, now you're talking about Zion. You're not talking about Haze.
Oh, my bad.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's the one with Andra in it,
Well, then I won't say anything more, but saying I love the way you tend to start things, a little bit of James Bond action.
Oh, good. Did I start Haze that way? Well, no, I started Haze with a drug addict on the street, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was going to be, again, as a superior form of jump pilot, so.
Yeah.
Well, somebody's got to have a use for all of those pretty colors.
Yes.
Yes.
So you have interhuman relationship problems. You have interracial problems with non-humans. You have a little bit of belief system conflicts.
Oh, yeah, for sure. There's also various religions still exist in society. Too many science fiction and science people seem to think, religion will wither away. No. People are always afraid to die. I'm sorry, this is going to be a constant in human and also in all these other species. Nobody wants to die.
I was going to ask about alien religions.
I couldn't quite hear you, Chess. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I was going to ask you about alien religions and whether you were building those as well.
I haven't yet, but I have certainly built some new human ones. Well, no, actually, I do have. There's references to alien religions. The Leps, the Taya-Nar Lep species. Onar is their big god, and they swear by him a lot. But it's just sort of left there because there's not been a use for it.
Okay. Still, they're there.
Yep.
They're there, and they will definitely be there because, like I say, none of these people want it to totally end. And that's going to continue religion, whether the science people like it or not, really.
Yeah.
Have you settled on the theme of them yet? What is the theme of the next two books, Hayes and Zion?
Theme? What is this word theme? I know, I never think about things like that. Somebody, once the books are published, some fan, if they like them enough, will sit down one day and email me and say, I see the theme of these two books. And I'll say, oh, yeah, probably you're right.
Yeah.
The theme is too abstract. I always start with character. Character determines everything in my books, really.
Yeah, I mean, this has always been my point. Plot is just what people do.
Yeah, exactly.
If you get the characters right, then the plot happens.
Yeah. You have the characters and they're in a milieu or a world, if you want to call it that. And then something in my book, something cruddy is going on in this world and the characters are caught up in it. And so what do they do next?
Yeah.
That's how I work.
Yeah.
I don't worry about themes and vast what's-its because that's abstract. It gets in the way of characters.
Okay. So is Zion a direct sequel to Hayes?
Yes. It picks up where Hazel leaves off.
Same characters?
So many of the same characters are also brand new characters too.
Excellent.
In fact, I have so many characters now. I'm beginning to think this is going to be a much. These days, publishers say, "Oh, we only want books that are 100,000 words." Well, tough.
Yeah, paper has become very expensive again.
Yes.
I've seen this cycle over and over in the 47 years I've been publishing.
Yeah.
The price of paper affects profoundly how thick books are,
Right.
to an extent that no readers actually realize.
Yes. It's like a total arbitrary thing to the writer because, of course, what we think is, well, the story has to be as long as the story has to be long.
Yeah.
And they're going, oh, but it's going to cost this much. I was hoping that perhaps ebooks would ease some of the pressure because,
I was going to ask that. And is there a difference of distribution between how many buy paper books and how many ebooks sell?
There might be. I have no idea.
People buy more paper or ebooks anymore.
Yeah, I have absolutely no idea. I mean, I'm sure there is a difference. Ebooks are gaining in popularity. I can tell you that audiobooks are definitely gaining in popularity. The audiobooks of Devery have now earned royalties that have bailed me out of poverty several times.
Oh, bless them. But yeah, I mean, again, a long audiobook costs a lot more to make because it demands, more hours by the readers and the producers and the studio and yada, yada. There's very little extra expense in a long ebook as against a short one.
Right.
Well, I just want to throw out there because my Google foo is incredibly fast.
Yes.
Ebooks have been growing globally, apparently by 3.5-4% since 2017. They are projected to grow faster than print books grow, but print still outsell ebooks about 4-1, according to midway through 2023.
Really?
Thank you.
That surprises me, but I'm delighted.
Well,
Yeah.
I loved traveling. As you guys know, I just got back from Canada, man. And in Canada, driving by, there were still bookstores everywhere. Like there are bookstores everywhere in Australia. So we in America, who've been a little bit crowded onto Amazon and lost a lot of our paper bookstores, we're buying less, but that doesn't mean the rest of the world doesn't like a good paper book.
Aha. Yes, that's a very important point, Jeannie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been in our house? Have you seen?
Yes, in my house too. I'm sure you all have seen the multi-story libraries or in the multi-building in the case of Karen and Chaz,
Yes.
We like our paper books too.
Their numbers about it say things like they polled people, according to this, saying 45% of people bought a printed book and only 23% bought an ebook. I'm comforted that I skew that a great deal because I almost exclusively buy ebooks. So,
okay. Why is that? Is that just space? Or
well, it's a combination of space, and I am of a certain age where I sometimes want to change the font size.
Yes, well, there is that with the ebooks. That is just.
And I'm terribly sorry, my printed book, but I can't read the tiny little acid-free paper stuff printed in the 70s because they're all tiny. So
yes. I'm currently reading 3-volume, indeed a trilogy, a science fiction trilogy published a long time ago. And to my shame, I'm only just catching up with it. And what I have is the paperback omnibus edition. And it's one of the fattest books I've ever handled. And I'm a man who reads Neil Stevenson. And it also has print I find slightly uncomfortably small. So I do get you, Jeannie, but I still like a solid book in my hand.
I'd also like to mention that nobody needs the Oxford English Dictionary anymore, but it did come with a very easy to hold giant mirror or a magnifying glass.
Yes.
Magnifying glass, so you can read the little tiny print. And I've got one in the back room.
I'm aware. I had one.
I have one too. Right there in the dining room with on its own lectern.
But it's super hard to do it at night with the light off so you don't wake up your husband.
Well, there is that. Yeah.
Good point. Good point.
I mean, we have our reasons. Plus, then I get to read, e-arcs that friends send me in order to do this delightful podcast. So I've just read a lot more electronically than I have in paper.
Right.
Right. Well, what I use the electronic, the ebooks for are things that I'll probably never read again. Like, for instance, mysteries. I mean, I like the cozy British type mysteries. And I never reread them. I mean, once I know who done it, I know it. And so anyway, this way I can just delete them.
Yeah.
and they're not gumming up the shelves where I have everything else.
Oh, come on, who are you reading right now? I'm on Katie Murphy's Dublin Driver series. Who are you doing?
Oh, me? Kate Elliott.
Nice.
I'm still reading Furious Heaven.
Nice.
But that's again the problem. Alice sent me her copy of the big, thick edition of Furious Heaven, and the print is so small that I actually went and bought the ebook to read on screen.
Illustrating my point to the gods. Thank you, Kit.
Yes, so by the way, it's not a trilogy yet, but it's going to be. She's writing book 3. It's really very good, starting with Unconquerable Sun.
Which
I don't know, they didn't call it Invincible Sun, damn it. But anyway, Unconquerable Sun is the first one, and Furious Heaven is the second, and they're very good.
Oh, I love the Unconquerable Sun.
Alice is really a genius.
We read them and talked to her about them. We think they're fabulous.
Oh, yeah, the world building. Well, Alice has always been a great world builder.
Yeah.
Or Kate.
So let me ask you another final question here. You have Hayes is the first one that we're talking about. You have Zion coming. Can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to that because I liked it. Is this our future with you? Are you finding your way through this universe? Will we have more?
Well, there should be a third one.
Excellent.
But beyond that, I don't know. I'm going to be 80 in October. I don't know how many years I have left. So I really don't think about what I'm going to write beyond these 2 books.
I have every confidence that after we all murder George R.R. Martin, you'll be able to take those over and finally finish them for him. So,
yeah.
Oh, don't worry, they'll find a male writer to do that.
They will.
They will.
Yeah. Besides, I don't like grimdark stuff. I mean, the news is so horrible. If I want to really be bummed out by violence and betrayal, I can read about Gaza, and I don't because it's awful. I mean, why would I want to read fiction like that? It just doesn't, to me, it makes no sense. But I mean, if other people like it, that's fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I don't like that.
No, I like hope. I like building. I like the idea that things can get better if we work at it. So that's one of those things I like about your books is through the end of it, it's people trying to make things better. You have a touch of hero's journey, touch of heroine's journey, a touch of, look, let's see the world for what it is and then try to make it better. And that's what I really love about your books, Kit.
Oh, good. That's what I aim for, really. It's the idea is that when terrible things happen, they don't necessarily have to happen.
Exactly.
Well,
we will put links to how people can buy Hayes today and the rest of your website and other things.
Hayes is not going to be published till next year.
Next year?
Oh, you're going to make us wait.
Yes. We're talking about science fiction in general. Let me go on for a minute here.
Yeah,
please.
There was a time when fantasy was the minor genre and science fiction was the major one, right? And people said, oh, well, that fantasy stuff, that won't last. Ha ha. Fantasy has totally taken over the market now. When my agent read Hayes and really liked it, and she was all optimistic, and we got one offer out of the 19 pitches she made.
Wow.
And what is so funny is that 17 of those of the rejections, right? No, I mean about 15 of the rejections all said, oh, we love the book, it's great, but we're looking for romantic fantasy. We want romantasy.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
And that's it. And so Hayes will come out next year from a small press, Arc Manor's science fiction line, which I do not know how to pronounce. Sezik or something. And, they're always, of course, low on capital, small presses, so you have to wait your turn.
Okay.
But, that's fine. It gives me a chance to mess around and revise it a little more.
Yeah.
But
and they follow your Patreon, perhaps, to get clues about how you're writing on it.
Yeah, or especially you can follow the Patreon to see what's happening with Zion, because of course that's mostly what I'm working with now. And I'm planning on posting snippets here and there. If I can do it without giving away the ending of Hayes, because one follows on the other,
Oh, yeah.
So we'll see.
I'll put links to that, plus other things that we discussed during this episode on our website, which is www.writersdrinkingcoffee.com. You had to know?
Yeah, Total City Blues and Snare and Freeze Frames are all still in print.
I will put the links to all of these things.
Yes, Polar City and the Freeze Frames, mostly available in ebook. I think they're only available in ebook, but they're available. There's some sort of strange edition of Palace out, which I had no idea somebody was. I'm going to have my agent look into it. I was checking, to see, well, okay, what is still in print?
Yeah.
And there were some editions of Palace listed on Amazon.com with covers I did not recognize. And so I've got to really go into that some more, because I have a feeling somebody's pirated it.
The bastards. Okay, well.
But anyway.
If it finds out they did, we kind of want to know what happened about that. So let me know and I'll do a write-up, because book piracy is a thing now. It's not just...
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah, look at Gen AI.
Yeah,
exactly.
We could do a whole episode just talking about piracy and AI.
Oh, yes.
And all of this stuff.
So we'll be back.
Because we haven't done an episode like that for ages.
We haven't. But on this one, I have to say, Kit, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about science fiction.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to Writers Drinking Coffee, a labor of love and enthusiasm put together by the hosts. Our main web magic is cast by Deirdre Schween, and our sound engineer and backup web spiders are David Welsh and John Schmidt. Our intro and exit music is performed by Michael Engberg, who lives down under at manyhatsmusic.com. Our podcast sponsors are Jackal Designs, The Bean Street, Arm Street, and homage to wherever you buy your favorite books in a real bookstore. And hey, thanks for listening.